And then you think about things about, we mentioned the existence of God and if there is a God or not. That's a philosophical question. What are God's attributes? That's philosophical. And by the way, just to remind your viewers, by saying something is philosophical, I don't mean it's exclusively
Right.
philosophical, that it's only that. I'm just saying because we're trying to counter almost a century of people that kept saying we don't have anything to say about anything. We're trying to muscle our way back to the table and go,
Right.
no, we've got some things to say.
Right.
We're not trying to say we're the only member of the conversation like
Right.
God, because obviously the scriptures tell us things about God we couldn't know by reason. But it also has things to do about God's existence and attributes and stuff. Then you got issues of morality and such. When in the Declaration of Independence, our birth certificate as Americans, and it's not a legal document, but it kind of is an insight into the milieu of under which the Constitution was
Hmm.
forged.
Right.
And when I'm not going to recite it, I have it memorized that sort of preamble,
Right.
but to spare your viewers. But when they're trying basically to say, hey, if you're going to sever yourself from another country and start a new country, you better give some good reasons. You better be ready to tell your fellow human why you're doing this. And so they say they start to iterate these self-evident truths. Well, between those two, hey, you better give good reasons, and then start saying, here's all the things we want that are self-evident. They use a phrase that says the reason why we think we can do this, split off from King George and the colonies become an independent nation, is because these we have unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that arise from nature and nature's God.
Hmm.
Now, nature there, we tend to think nature largely in terms of the physics of things, chemistry and physics and that kind of stuff. And that's obviously part of nature. But in 18th century English, as residual from earlier thinking from the Middle Ages all the way back to the Greeks, ancient Greeks, this idea of nature also would include moral truths that are knowable by reason,
Hmm.
that are self-evident truths. I would submit to your audience that this is what Paul is getting at in a number of places, not the least of which is Romans 2:14 and 15, when
Right.
it talks about the works of the law are written on the heart. And Thomas Aquinas would argue that human beings' ability to some extent, not flawless, but human beings' ability to some extent to know moral truths is a means by which God manages nations in the earth.
Hmm.